I mean, that recording contract number one and the publishing contract number two are long-term contracts typically. Most artists will only ever have one recording agreement if they ever get a recording agreement. So to get it is very difficult. To keep it and maintain it and use it is even more difficult. So you want to be sure that you lock in the best terms possible. If you make a bad record deal, that's going to stick with you for many, many, many years and will influence your income and your ability to do work for other labels drastically. Like once you sign what's called an exclusive recording agreement, you can't record for anybody else. You can't have 8 record deals at once. So you get one shot at doing it right. It's very critical that before you sign anything, you have a knowledgeable, and I don't mean a construction attorney, I mean a music or entertainment attorney, review it and understand exactly what you're signing because it ties you into a deal for many, many years and sets up what could be a very good or a very bad situation for a long time. On the publishing side, the same thing. Publishing deals deal with your composition rights, the rights in the underlying songs themselves. And those can be very valuable over time. So you want to make sure you get the right splits. You want to make sure songs are registered properly, they're marketed properly, and you're with a company that's going to bring you value. Because once you sign that deal, it might be a 3-year deal or a 5-year deal, you're going to be stuck with that company for 3 or 5 years. And if there's other companies that can do better for you and they come up in year 2, you can't use them. You can't work with them. You're stuck. So I would say that those 2 agreements in particular are critical, and it's worth your time and effort and your money because you should pay for proper advice. Get a experienced and knowledgeable entertainment or music attorney. Do not get a construction attorney or a litigator or a trust estate attorney. You want a specific entertainment music attorney that knows what they're doing. Touring is critical nowadays. It's one of the biggest ways that artists can make money. It's very important that you have the proper strategy when you put a tour together. And whether that's at the club level or a theater level or an amphitheater or a stadium, all those are different levels of touring. And it's critical that you think about what you're doing and what your goals are with each one of those. So an early artist might play local clubs, right? How do you build a following? How do you build an audience? Can you sell merchandise? Can you sell CDs or recordings of your music or sell other things, tickets to your next show, right? You want to keep building that audience and coming back so that they know who you are. And then you play the town that's a little further away and you play the town that's a little further away. How do you route that, right? How do you take advantage of economies of scale? Can you work with another act that has an audience in that town, right? So maybe you're in LA, but you want to play San Francisco. You don't have an audience there, but your friend's band is from San Francisco. So maybe you play up there with them and they play in LA with you. So there's a multitude of ways to strategize about it, but the big idea is to deliver value to your audience, right? You want people to go to your show and be excited and come away going, man, when can I see them again? And tell their friends about you. So the next time you come, you got twice as big an audience or 3 times as big an audience. And you want to keep that growth cycle going. One of the things I learned from an agent, and at some point you'll get an agent if you're successful because it's a full-time job to book and negotiate these live performances and tours. But the agent was like, don't take every dollar off the table, right? Leave some on there for the next time you come through, because if you sell every seat out and you keep, doing multiple dates, you're going to burn that market out. And everybody there is going to be, well, I saw them 6 months ago. I don't need to see them again. So be a little exclusive, play a little smaller than you can so that there's a line. When people see lines outside, what does that mean? Good stuff inside, right? You go by a restaurant, you see a line outside, you're like, it must be nice. The food must be amazing in there. So you want people to want more. You don't want to have empty seats at your show. So always, I would say, undersell with the thought that you're going to come back in 6 months or a year on your next tour cycle and build a bigger audience. So it's critical to think about those type of strategies. Ticket pricing is also very important. You don't need to take every single dollar off the table. And I know people complain about Ticketmaster and about all these big companies taking fees. A lot of that's driven by the artist. I mean, people don't want to say it, but the artist controls whether they make that play or not. They control what the pricing is or could be. They approve all of that. So that either the artist themselves, their manager, or their agent is making those decisions and approvals and allowing those tickets to be priced at a certain point, allowing those fees to be stuck on. And the other thing at the higher levels is people don't realize that promoters now at big shows are making almost zero on the show. They're making all their money on concessions, merchandising, parking, other little ancillary income streams. And that's why you see a ticketing fee or a parking fee, or you're paying, $8 for a hot dog or $50 for a shirt. That's where the promoter and the venue make their money. They're not making it off the ticket. Sometimes in big shows, almost 100% of the money that's coming in on tickets goes to pay the artist. So it's a weird business where people don't quite understand the economics of it, but those fees are there because the promoters and the venues need to make some money. And they're trying to roll them all into one, or they're trying to break them all apart so you can see where each one of them goes. But suffice it to say, the artist and their representatives control how that strategy is put in place. And it's important that you understand different levels, from the club to the theater to the arena to the stadium. They all have different economics and different financials, and you need to be accustomed and hire the right team around you to help you navigate that. So there's two things, and someone asked me this question the other day: what do you look for in an artist that you'd want to work with? And I said there's two things. One, are they uniquely talented? Is there something uniquely talented about that person or that band that doesn't sound like anything else and sounds new? Two, what's the work ethic, right? Are they willing to put in the effort and the time and the hard work it's going to take to build a career? If you only have one of those, it probably won't work. You have both of them, now you have an opportunity. It still probably won't work, but the chances are much higher, right? You want someone that loves doing it and doesn't look at it like it's a job, like, oh, I got to go play a show tonight, or oh, I got to record something. That should be something that's exciting. That should be an opportunity where you're saying, I get a chance to record my favorite song today. I get to play with my favorite people and go on tour on stage with them. That's the kind of excitement that should drive an artist, I think. So to me, you want that work ethic where they're willing to put in the long hours of time, and you want someone that's got a unique talent. You have to balance the ego and the drive and that dream with some semblance of reality in real life. You should be thinking big. You should have that confidence. And especially for a lead singer or stage performer, you have to have that bigger than larger than life persona and ego sometimes. But there also has to be a business side of you that says, what am I doing? Right? Is this really happening? Can I really support this? Does this really make economic sense? Sometimes it does. Sometimes you got to take a risk. So what you need is a team, and that's why if you're, most successful artists, in fact, probably all of them, will bring in a trusted manager, trusted attorney, trusted accountant, people that have a grounding ability, and their job is to say no to you, believe it or not, right? You're the crazy artist. Gosh, I want to go get a bus and a plane. I want to have 50 people on stage. Like, no, right? 50 people on stage is going to cost you $500,000 a night. So how about we start out with 4 or 5 people on stage, right? And try to get that same sound from those people. Oh, okay. Instead of 50 buses, how about 2 buses? Or how about a van, right? And show them why. Show them the economics and say, is this tour for you to just spend money or make money? Do you want to continue your career and grow, or do you want to blow it all on one night? And I used to tell some of my guys, I'm like, you're making enough money every night to put a kid through 4 years of college, right? That's the kind of money you're making. So when you want to have a different color curtain that costs, a couple $100,000 to get manufactured and to ship and to hang, think about that, right? Does the audience really care about that color of the curtain? Now, sometimes they do. Sometimes it's a critical, creative decision and it's necessary. But if it's an element that isn't maybe critical, and you could take that away, number one, you're saving time and effort and labor, but you're also going to make that up on the income side. That's something at the bottom line you have to talk about. I mean, this is a career. It's not just I'm giving my stuff out for free and I want to make zero. No, you want to have a balance. You want to make a good income while you're putting out your art and being creative and performing. So someone has to help you with that balance, and that's generally someone on the business side. And that's why there's business guys and there's creative guys and women. And it's that balance, I think, that you see with the successful artists that are out there. They have to trust someone to look out for their best interests, and they have to also know how to say no. And you, as an artist or creative, need to listen. Right? It's not just you. You may think something. I get so many artists, oh, just get me on the radio. If I'm on the radio, it's like, not everybody on the radio is successful. And it's not just that easy to get you on the radio. That's a lot of time and money and effort to get somebody on the radio. So there's a lot of misconceptions where people think something happens a certain way and it doesn't. But I think having a knowledgeable team and a trusted team around you is one way to help get through that quickly. It's critical that you have some understanding of it. No one expects you to be an expert in that, and your lawyer is not going to be an expert accountant. Your accountant's not going to be an expert lawyer. So there's different, verticals where people have expertise. But as someone who, in today's world, where you're handling a lot of your own things, like a DIY space, much more than it was 5, 10, 20, 30 years ago, you should have some basic knowledge in each one of those disciplines, right? You should know. You should actually read your contracts. I know it's hard. And the first record contract I ever read took me 4 hours to get through. And then I read it again and I read it again. And by the fifth time I read it, it took me like 30 minutes and I could figure out this part's important, this part's boilerplate. It's the same in every contract. Here are all the important parts. And and each record company has a different contract, by the way, and they're all like 200 pages long. They're very difficult reading. But if that's your bread and butter, if that's your life, if that's your career, you should take the time to try to understand it. And you should ask, right? So you read and go, hey, Mr. Attorney or Miss Attorney, what does this mean, right? I'm looking at this clause. I don't understand this. Can you explain it to me? That is worth whatever you're paying them to tell you, because that knowledge will end up going with you year after year, decade after decade in your career. It'd be like, I don't know, a professional baseball player not understanding what a balk is or what a walk is, and just all they know how to do is hit. No, you should understand the whole game, right? You don't need to be a pitcher to understand what a balk is. You don't need to be a first baseman to understand some of the things that a first baseman knows, but you should have a general idea of how that works. And you should hire the right team members that do have that expertise, your attorney, your manager, your agent, your accountant, right? And make sure they are professionals in the entertainment space, because entertainment law is different than transactional law in contracting and in commercial real estate, et cetera. Accounting is different in the medical field than it is in the music field. So you want someone that has deep expertise specifically in music or entertainment. And you'll see those people come out of the woodwork. Some of them are very good, some of them are not. Ask for references. Take the time to build your team. They're going to be doing a lot of that heavy lifting, a lot of the work, and they're going to be saying yes or no on your behalf throughout your career. And as you get bigger and bigger and bigger, the no becomes much more than the yes. When you're small and starting out, everything, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that. As you get bigger and bigger, that world gets smaller and you can't do all those things. So you need people to help you make those decisions, and people that you trust to make those decisions, because you won't have time to do all of them. So it's critical that you have some basic understanding of all those. There are books out there. There's a lot of online resources. There's platforms like Pobodio that allow you to have conversations with experts and learn this firsthand. But yes, spend the time, spend a little bit of money, spend the effort to educate yourselves, because at the end of the day, if you don't know and don't get something, it's on you. Again, I started at zero. I started out managing my high school band. So I know about how that structure is when you're just starting out. And I've also managed a band that was number one on the Billboard charts in 1994. We had a number one record in June of 1994. So I've seen 0 to 100. And if someone asks me about touring at clubs, I could say X. If someone asks me about negotiating a record deal with Sony Records, I could say Y. So I've done all those things. I haven't done everything, but I think more than most, I've had a bird's eye view of the entire process from 0 to 100. And as a manager, uniquely, managers have a piece of the record company. They understand how those departments work. They're not, I'm not a specialist in radio promotion, but I know how radio promotion works because I've dealt with the radio promoters at Atlantic, at Warner Brothers, at Sony, at Columbia, at Epic. There's similarities and there's differences, but I have a general understanding of how that works. I understand how the publicity department works. I understand how the sales department works. I understand how marketing works. I mean, as a manager, you have your fingers in all the business, right? I like to say that the artist writes, performs, and records. Managers do everything else, right? All the business, all the team building. Hey, where's the scheduling today? What are we doing tomorrow? How's this affecting our bottom line? What opportunities do we have on the merchandising side? How are we going to run our tour? Who's the agent for the tour? Who's the production manager, tour manager? All that other stuff falls on the manager. So we see a lot. We have experience, again, not maybe super deep, but we have a good broad experience across the entire spectrum and the entire ecosystem that an artist might encounter. So having seen that, I mean, I understand the artistic mind. I understand the creative differences between someone who's focused on writing and recording and performing versus someone who's reading a contract all day long. There's differences in those skill sets and that mindset many times. So it's important to be able to translate business concepts and ideas that a creative or an artist can understand. Because if I just read it off as a paragraph in a contract, they're going to be like, I don't know what that means, right? Tell me what that really means and translate it to me. So I think I'm pretty good at that. And I understand, kind of the pain points that an artist might encounter, whether it's regards to royalties or record income or touring problems or ways to strategize. How do I go from A to B, right? I'm here, I got this many fans, I want to go to here. So what does that entail? How can I market myself? How can I build a team? How can I work out some interpersonal communications issues that maybe I have with other band members or, other parts of my team? How do we renegotiate a contract? At what point would you want to do that? What's a good contract? What's a bad contract? How do I deal with my manager? I mean, that alone is a book right there. I mean, managers are of all shapes and sizes, and no one's doing the same thing the same way. And people are bad managers. There's good managers, there's bad managers. So how do you find out, how to a sounding board to say, hey, does this sound like the right situation? Does it sound like this was handled properly? The communication, engendering that communication, and knowing what and when and what to say and when to say it, I think is really critical. So I'm good at all that stuff. I've got experience across the board and all that kind of stuff. So again, yeah, 0 to 100. There are no dumb questions, and there's only questions that you're afraid to ask, right? And if you don't ask, you're never going to know. And I would say, if you're going to ask somebody who's been there and done that. Don't ask somebody who's never been there and never done that. Right. and that's, I don't, whether you're building a house or selling a car or whatever you're doing, ask someone who's done that exact thing, because they know, right? Good or bad, left or right, they know. Hey, when I sold my car, the first guy came up and tried to rip me off. Oh, really? What happened? Oh, he never had the money. He wrote a bill of sale. He's going to come up with stuff that you would never think of. And having that knowledge helps you when it comes your time to do that same thing. So yeah, I'm happy to help at any level. I don't think there's any dumb questions. I think by asking someone who knows, you may get to the next question to ask, because sometimes you don't even know what the question is to ask, right? You'll say, what I really want to know is, how do I get from A to B? I'm going to ask him about a record deal, when really the answer that you need is a more comprehensive answer about, how do I structure my team to move me into more success? May have nothing to do with the record deal, but that's the question you think you need to ask. And on talking to someone that maybe knows, you go, oh, he took that record label agreement question and turned it into what I really was trying to find out is, how do I further my career, right? So yeah, I would say ask someone who knows, ask someone who's done it before. And really, the people that have been there and done it are not ever going to look down on you, because they've been in the same place that you have. And I know it sounds cliche, and I know people go, oh, but the real pros, and in my experience, the people that answer things clearly and directly are the ones that have done it. The people that go, well, let me tell you, and they tell you some all story about something, or they just bat around the question and never really get to it. They don't know, right? If you don't know something, you're gonna obfuscate all day long. If you know, you could say, yes, here's what you do. Yeah. Boom, done, right? Instead of, I'm going to give you 18 different things to think about, I'm going to take you down this path. The people that know what they're doing will be very direct with you and very concise. I totally respect what you're doing, and love what you're building, and want to give back any way I can. So you've got something that's of high value, and it's a really great idea and a great platform for people to learn from, and jump ahead, right? Again, you can read all the books, and those books are written 5, 10, 20 years ago. Ask someone who's doing it right now, or ask somebody that question, again, that may lead to another question that the book's not going to tell you, right? The book's not going to predict what you should ask, but talking to somebody that knows, they might open the next door for you. And I think that's really the value of your platform. So I'm excited for you. I think this is a really great thing. Anything I can do to help, I'm here. I love it.